Good morning, everyone. Uh, this is Module 5 Input and the Interaction, which has been taken from the second textbook, that is Edward Angel. You have to refer the second textbook, Edward Angel. It's chapter 3 in the Edward Angel, Input and the Interaction. In the Module 5, in our syllabus, so if you have a Module 5, so we have a first part as an input and the interaction till here, and then we have a curves and computer animation that comes with a Bezier curves or something like that, right? So in this session I'll be covering the entire part of the input and interaction, which is a half of the module 5. Okay, so first of all, before coming to this, so I'm just going to list out few objectives what I'm going to do here. First of all, I'm going to introduce a variety of the input devices, the type of the input devices what we have, and then we going to talk about the different perspective. There are two perspective the input devices can be given. One is the physical devices which can be given in the real time properties like the keyboard or the mouse, right? Another one is the devices appears to the application program, how these devices appears to the application program. We call it as a logical way. So we're going to discuss about that, and we're going to talk little about the client server architecture, and few questions we're going to answer in this session. Yes. Okay, next one. What is input devices? The input devices majorly has been divided into two categories. One is a physical devices, another one is a logical devices. The physical devices can be a mouse, keyboard or something. As you already know with this, I'm not going to talk much into it. The logical devices is the application program, how the application program looks for the devices. That is what we call it as a logical devices. So the logical devices depends on a particular application which you are been using. Now if you say a C program, right, if you take on a C program, the logical devices can be a set of functions like a printf, scanf, right? Printf and the getChar is for the input functions, and the scanf and the getChar is the input function, and the printf and the putchar is output function. So there might be a different logical devices in the C program, but wherein the logical devices in the computer graphics is slightly complex, slightly different. Where in a C, you might see in this printf, scanf, or the putchar, it only collects a character, and digits or a character. But where in the computer graphics, we may have some of the images, or the non-graphical applications, or a bit or a character, which is a combination of all this. So it is a little bit of a complex in terms of logical devices. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about the physical devices. There are there are multiple types of physical devices, but we have been listed only two here. So one is a pointing devices, another one is a keyboard devices. When you come to pointing devices, so first of all, I'm going to talk about the positioning devices. Positioning devices is also called as a pointing devices. It's kind of a mouse. Mouse is called as a positioning devices because we're going to retrieve the position of the mouse. So when we say a relative positioning devices, there is some mechanism involved in a mouse, so that going to provide us a position. Now when you say a mouse, there will be a trackball. Now the mouse has been changed, the optical mouse has been come across, but before we going to have a trackball mouse, where we used to have a trackball. So the distance the trackball travels, right, so that going to give us the particular position of the cursor on the in the CRT or the monitor, right? So the majorly the trackball going to calculate, integrate the distance and the velocity of the trackball. Distance and the velocity of the ball has been traveled, and that distance we're going to render it to the cursor movement on the monitor. That is what we have with the relative positioning devices. This is a simple devices. Since you already know with the mouse, you need to write something about it. So we're going to take the x-axis position, y-axis position by the solitary movement of the trackball towards the x-axis, towards the y-axis, along with the velocity, and on that basis we're going to move the cursor on the monitor. That is what we have. A relative positioning devices is kind of a mouse. The next input devices, The first input devices I'm going to talk about the data tablet. You guys already know this, right? The tablet need to have one stylus. Before this they used to have a stylus, and wherever you have been pressed there, the electricity will be a conducted, right? And that point the event will be taken place, and that is what the tablet has been done. Now the smartphone also, it happens the same thing. So just the movement of the finger or the stylus which generates the electricity at that particular point, and that particular point the event will be generated, and whatever the option or the icon will be there, and that will be pressed or some actions will be taken, and that is what we have a data tablet. The next one we have a light pen. As you guys already know, with this there is a threshold detector, so we have a one phosphorus pen, and we have a photo detector on a screen. So whatever you draw by this pen on a screen, and that will be detected. So you might have seen the smart pen here, smart pad, right? There is a concept called as a smart pad or the signature pad, right, which works on the same thing. So we have a photo detector, and whatever you draw by this pen, this particular pen, and that will be detected, and that particular drawing will be taken place. This is another input devices, what we majorly use it in terms of a computer graphic. The another one we have a joystick, right? A joystick you might be knowing. So we'll be having a joystick as not given here. So there are two-dimensional orthogonals. We can move it along the sticks, right? So both in the x and the y direction, and you can make joystick is one of the devices majorly used in a game. You already know with this. So next one we have a space ball. This is a particular space ball. So the ball can be moved in any particular devices direction. So we call it as a 6-degree dimension with a space ball. So majorly we can be used in the space, the flight emulators, or taking off the flight, moving it down. So we has been using the space ball from multiple time, and these are the input devices. And we do have a keyboard also. I have not listed out the keyboard here, so you can go with a keyboard. That is what we have input devices, the physical input devices. These are called as a physical input devices, pointing devices and the keyboard devices. Yes. The next one I'll come with the logical devices. This is very important, logical devices. Before explaining you the logical devices, first of all we need to understand the two things here. One is a measure, another one is a trigger. The first line we call it as a measure. Now what is measure? So what the device has to return, what the device has to return, that is called as a measure. Now imagine if you have a keyboard, what that keyboard has to return, some keys, and that will be called as a measure, right? And what is trigger? When the device has to return, when the device has to return, that is will be a trigger. So when the keyboard has to return, when you press on it, the same way the mouse. So when you have a, here we have two behavior, logical behavior. One is a measure, another one is a trigger. So when you have a measure, so what the device has to return, that is a measure, and when the device has to return, that will be a trigger. Now I'll come to our logical devices. There are 6 logical devices in a computer graphics. So 6 class of logical devices. First one is a string, which gives you only string which has ASCII values of a string to a user program. And this is a major input in the C programs. We use only a string in a C program, nothing else. So only string, ASCII value. So ASCII either the numbers or alphabet, so that can be written to a program, and that is what we call it as a string. Majorly we use a keyboard to return the string. That is the first logical device. The second one is a locator. Locator provides you a position, is like a mouse position. So the pointing devices are a mouse which gives you a position of the cursor where you have to click or something, and that is will be a locator. When you have a particular game, the Counter-Strike or something, so when you move a mouse, the view also will be moved, and that is what the position, what we have to move it on the location, so that will be provided, and that is what we call it as a locator. The next part we have a pick. Pick is an which provides an identifier. Now imagine you have a multiple object, which object you need to choose it, and that is what we call it as an pick. So pick is majorly done using the pointing device or the mouse or something only. So now imagine in the Counter-Strike game, if I taken as an example, now you need to pick up a gun. So you just need to click on that particular gun, and the identifier will be provided to a program, and the program will take a further action, and that is what we call it as a pick. The another point is a logical device is a choice. Choice is nothing but a menu. So when you right click on it, so you get as multiple options. In that options, distinct number of options. In that options, you need to choose one. That is what we call it as a choice. Choice is majorly given by the menu, scroll bar, or the graphical buttons or something. So it can be anything. It can be a menus, it can be a scroll bar. So the choice will be given from the distinct number of the options. The dial, so dial is an analog input to the user program, and that is very important. Now you have a switch or something, so you provide the analog input, and that will be converted into a digital, and that is what we call it as a dial. So for the dials we need to have some widgets, right? Using a widgets, we give some analog input, and that will be converted into a digital. Now if you take a joystick or a space bar, so you'll be having a particular switch, and when you click on that switch, the analog signal will be passed, and that will be converted into a digital, and that is what we call it as a dial. The last one is a stroke. Stroke is the same like a locator, where the locator passes only a position in the word coordinate, which passes an array of location. Multiple location can be given using a stroke, and this is what we have a 6 logical devices. This one is very important for the exam perspective. So the 6 logical devices, before explaining that, you need to define the measure and the trigger, the definition of the measure, definition of the trigger, and the 6 logical devices. Very important questions. Yes, now I'll be briefly defining you this measure and the trigger. So you already know with this, the manner by which the physical and the logical devices provide the input to a program is by the measure and the trigger. Now what is a measure? So what the device returns to the program, that will be a measure. What is a trigger? So the device, physical device, which the so when the device has to return, right, with which the user can signal the computer, so that will be given as a trigger when it has to be given. Now when you take it as an example, the measure of the keyboard is a string, right? The trigger could be a return or an enter key. So when, now imagine in a C program, enter your age, you enter 37, and that is what the 37 is a measure, and then you hit enter button, and that will be the trigger, right? So even in the location, the measure will be a location, and the trigger can be a button with the pointing devices. So when you move a mouse cursor, when you move a mouse, so that will be a measure, and when you click a button or somewhere, and that will be a trigger, right? And that is what we have a brief history of the measure and the trigger. Now we'll come to input modes. This is one of the very important questions, right? So the input mode, everyone must need to study this. This is a simple way. So there are 3 types of input mode. What is the input mode says? So what are the different types, what are the different ways the input can be passed to the application program using the logical input devices that will be given by the input mode. Yeah, so we can measure the device in the 3 different modes, right? We can measure the device in the 3 different modes. First one is request mode, sample mode, and the event mode. There are 3 types of event mode, input mode. One is a request mode, sample mode, and the event mode. Now first I'll come to the request mode. Now what is request mode? Now we have two process. One is a trigger, another one is a measure. I have already discussed with a measure. What is measure? So what the program has to return, that is a measure. When the program has to return, that is a, when the device has to return, that is a trigger. Now you have an application program. Now what is the request mode says? This mode, the measure of the device is not returned to the program until the device is triggered. right? So that means, so whatever the measure of the particular device is not returned until that device is triggered. When it is been triggered, when you click some button, now you see the program request for the measure, and it doesn't send the measure directly. It waits for the trigger. When the trigger happens, then this measure will be sent to the program, and that is what we call it as a request mode. So the measure doesn't returns to the program directly until the device is triggered. When the device triggered, then the measure will be given to the program. So one example I can give, the locator can be moved to a different points on a screen. The Windows system continuously follows the location of the pointer, but until the button is pressed, the location is not written. So you can make the mouse cursor to move anywhere. You can see here I can move the mouse cursor anywhere on my screen, but until I don't press any button, so the location will not be written, right? So location is only written when I click on a button, and that is what we call it as a request mode. Simple it is. The second one, we have a sample mode. Sample mode is simple. The input is immediate. So whenever the program asks it, so we're going to provide the measure, and that is what we call it as a sample mode. Soon as the function call in the user program is encountered, the measure is written. So no hence trigger is needed. Trigger not at all needed. Now you see here the trigger process is there. Trigger process in the sample mode is not at all needed. So only program request. So rather than the request, ask for the sample, and the measure gives you a measure process provides you a measure, and the program takes that one and takes the further action. Now what is the best example for it? Any function call. Now imagine you have a function call to add two numbers. So you will be having a function definition and the function call. So as soon you do a add of 10 comma 20, so the function call goes to a function definition, and the function definition returns your value. There is no trigger taken place, right? And that is what we call it as a sample mode, which is a very necessary one. Now when you take a both of these mode, which one is the request mode and the sample mode, for the both of the above mode, the user must identify which device to provide. So whenever you send a request using a request mode or the sample mode, you have to provide the device ID, right? You have to identify the device which you are providing, and then you have to ask for the measure. That measure will be given. Otherwise, which device you specifically must need to tell in the request mode and the sample mode. But in the event mode, it's not like that. So we'll be going with the event mode in the next part. Okay, so the previous two mode is not sufficient for handling the variety of the possible human interaction. So we are going with the event mode. Now what happens with the event mode? Now first we'll come with a program, the diagram. So as you can see, there is a trigger process, measure process, and there is an event queue and the program. Now what happens? So the program waits for an event inside the event queue. Now, whenever the trigger happens, the measure of the device will be placed inside the queue. So, since it is a queue, it has been placed one above the each other. So, the multiple measure will come and sit inside the queue. As soon as the queue has some event, the program is waiting for an event, and that event will be taken and the program will execute that event. This is how the event mode will be taken place. Here we'll be having a queue. So soon the trigger taken place, so you go on adding the events inside the queue, and the program will take this event from the event queue and it will be executed. So program is waiting, program is not sending a request, program is waiting for the event, and soon as the program waits for an so soon as the event appears in the event queue, and that event will be executed by the program. And these three are the input mode. One is a request, sample, and the event mode. Very important. You just need to draw the diagram and just need to explain one example is sufficient, so you can get the marks. So easy way to get the marks here. Okay, so before I start here, the event mode, the event mode. So here I'm going to discuss few things here. First, I'm going to describe the how event mode can be described as another mode. First, I'll be describing the event mode. Second, I'll be talking about a basis of the client server architecture, because event mode, whenever the client server architecture has been taken place which works on the event mode, I'm just going to show you this. Then I'm going to talk some of the OpenGL or the GLUT function to handle the event function. Okay, now so when you have a client server architecture, as you can see here, so you'll be having a multiple servers and the multiple workstations, right? Now imagine there is a print servers. Now you have a, workstations and the computers here. Now, so this one print server is shared between the multiple computers. Imagine these four are the computers. Now, when these four, now imagine these four, all the four is sending the request to print and document, right? Then the print server has to manage the request in a such a way that so that it can be executed the first come first serve basis, right? So for that, what it does, it will calculate, it will handle one event queue, right? It will keep one event queue. Now soon imagine that this is a computer A which sends a print request. The A request will go and sit inside a queue. Then the B request will come and sit inside a queue. C request will come and sit inside a queue. Now the program is a print server which is waiting for the event. Soon the event comes, it will start printing. The time it printing, the other request come, that request will put inside the event, and it will go on emptying the event queue, and that is what the print server do. And this is the architecture we are using in the client server mechanism, and client server uses the event mode. This is what we have. So if you want to give an example for event mode, the client server architecture is a best example to give it as a event mode. Yes. Okay. Next, I'll come up with a display list. This is another important stuff here. Um, so in the previous computer, this is a display list, right? This is a previous architecture. So in the previous architecture, what we had a host and we had a CRT. Now imagine we come to a scenario. Now host has to send some image to be displayed on the monitor. Now imagine you have a horse to be displayed on a monitor. So the host will send the horse, and the monitor will display that image on the CRT will display that image, right? Now the CRT has a certain capacity. It has a fraction of a second which can hold the light. Then the CRT will turn off. Then the image is no more appear. So then what the host has to send? Host has to resend it. We call this process as a refresh. The host has to refresh it again and again so that that image will retain on the CRT. Now how many times the host has to resend it, that will be given by the display frequency. We call it as a display frequency. Majorly in the Indian displays, Indian CRTs, the display frequency will be 60 Hertz. What do you mean by 60 Hertz? The host has to send the image 60 times in a 1 second. In a 1 second, the host has to send the image 60 times so that it can be retained on the display. Now this is a long process. Every time the host has to send it. Now how do you can overcome this process is by the display list. Now what is a display list do? So display list takes a one display processor between the host and the CRT, right? And this display processor has its own memory. We call it as a display file. Display file is also called it as a display list, remember, right? So it has a display processor. We introduce an extra display processor which has its own memory called as a display file or a display list. Now who can access the display file? Only the display processor, nobody else. The host has no access to a display file. Now imagine, now that image has to be appear on the display or the CRT, the host will send an object. Imagine the host horse we have a horse as an object. So now the host will send that horse to a display processor. The display processor store that object or a horse inside the display file, and then it will send it to a display. Right now the horse or the object will be appeared on a display. Now next time the host has to resend it, because 60 times in a 1 second it has to send. Now what does the display processor says? The display processor never takes the input from the host for the next time. Since the object is already stored in a display file, it will retrieve directly from the display file and display it on the monitor. Now, what is the benefit of this? Rather than asking the host to resend the object again and again, the host will define the object once and pass it to a display processor. Display processor store it in the display file, and from the display file, he will refresh it again and resend it again and again. This is what the display processor do. So then the burden on the host will be reduced, and the transmission delay from the host to a display processor, that will be reduced. Why? Because we have a separate processor inside your computer, and from there only it is transmitting, and that is what we have a display list. That is a benefit of the display list we have. Yes. So there are two ways to send it. One is a traditional way, that is what they have send the complete description of our object to the server for the typical geometric primitives, and sending the vertices and the viewing the information. So we go on sending the information again and again to a display CRT. That is the first point. Otherwise, so you can come to a second diagram. Second diagram, what is say, define the object once, put it inside the display list. This is a display list, right? The display list is stored in the server and redisplayed by the simple function call issued by the client or the server. So once the object is defined inside a display list, so then it will be redisplayed using the simple function call which is defined by the server or the display processor, and that is what we call it as a retained mode. This type of action we call it as a retained mode. Okay, so there are two disadvantages also using this display list method. So what is the first disadvantages? Requires a memory on the server. This display list is on memory, so we need an extra bit of memory for the display list. That is a one. So there is an overhead of creating a display list. Overhead in the sense like you need to use a separate processor. Separate processor means separate overhead to the system. Remember this. These are the two disadvantages of the display list. This is another important topic, so which can be asked for the exam. Yes. Now, how do you execute the display list in the computer graphics, in the computer program? So to draw a display list, you have to use a GL new list. This is a function what you have to use, GL new list, and GL end list. So new list and the end list, so whatever you had been placed between this, that will be the display list, that will be stored inside the display file. Remember this, inside the display file, and it will be redisplayed again and again. So imagine you have to draw a polygon with the 4 vertices and a 1 color. You write it inside the new list and the end list, and that one will be stored inside the display file here, the display file here. Okay, now how do you give it? The new list takes a 2 parameter. The first parameter is what you want to draw, that is a box. That box you have to define it with some integer. Okay, and then what you have to do with this, whether you want to compile it or you want to transmit it. There are 3 modes of it, but in this one example I'll go only with a compile. Right, so this one will compile the object and store it inside the display list, inside the display, but no display, it doesn't display until it calls it. Okay, so now it has been stored inside the display list. Now is the execution. Now what is the execution? Now how do you can execute this particular polygon which is inside the display list is by the call list. You have to use a GL call list by the name of the display list. What is the name of the display list? Box. box has been given here. So if you give a name of the display, it's like a function call. It's like a function call. So that display list will be executed. So what is the difference between function call and the display list? Display list has a separate memory. The function call is nothing but just a function which executes in the program, right? That is nothing to do with the display list. That is different. Yeah, so that will be executed. Now you had put the call list inside the for loop which executes 5 times 1 to 5. So the call list, the display list will be executed 5 times. It will be retrieved and redisplayed again and again. This is nothing to do with this load identity and the Ortho2D. It's just for the supporting files what we have, right? This is how the display list will be executed. Okay, yeah, the test we don't have. Test with the display list we don't have in the syllabus. Is not necessary here. Font test is not necessary. Yeah, so now event driven using a pointing devices. Now this we already learned this one. So how do we introduce the pointing devices in a computer graphics or the OpenGL program? We use a glut mouse function, right? So then we have a callback function, one mouse callback function, and we just need to define it. That is what we have. So we have already seen the mouse function in the rotation of a color cube. You might already seen that one. So we have already used it. I'm not going to discuss more into it. You can go here. So one is a mouse event, another one is a which is generated. The mouse is moved with one of the button is pressed. That is what we call it as a mouse event. For the mouse event happens when one of the button is pressed or the release. So this is what we have. So what is passive move event? Move event is when the cursor is moved, the mouse is moved. So mouse has a two types of event. One is a mouse is pressed, that is a mouse event. That is mouse is moved, that is a move event. So using that can be captured using a mouse function. And how to use a mouse function, we already discussed that one in the lab, right? Yeah, so the next one is a positioning devices. Positioning devices is nothing but the mouse only. So how the positioning devices will be working. So here only one changes in the positioning devices. The origin will be taken from the top left corner, where in the graph sheet the origin is taken from the bottom left corner. Only changes here is the origin will be taken from the top left corner, and anything you want to move, so that will be moved using that particular coordination. Remember, so coordinate system changes here. There is a one. And then so you can see here mouse callback function which has a button, state, and a x and a y. So there are three types of a button: left, right, and a middle. State will be a down and a up. So down means when you press the button, up means when you release the button, what action should be taken, and that you can discuss here, right? So that is what we have a mouse function, completely mouse function with a positioning device is also a mouse device. Then the sum of the windows function we have. So I'm not going to discuss more into it because this is nowhere has been discussed in your syllabus, so I'm not discussing more into it. The square program is not necessary here. We just use the mouse function here just to draw a square and rotate that function, rotate that square program. Yeah, now you can come to a keyboard function also. So the keyboard function also exactly looks the same. So you just need to use a glut keyboard function, keyboard, and then you have to use unsigned character, one key. So key can be anything A to Z or any numbers. So X and Y will be the location of that particular key. If that key has been pressed, it will come here, and what action you need to give, that you can specify here. So the keyboard function is not that difficult also, right? Yeah, the display function or the idle callback function. So we might see in the glut display function. So what is a display? Any object you want to draw, that has to be written inside the display function that has been given here. Any animation, any transformation function has to be done, that also should be given in the display function. Remember, now what is a glut post redisplay will do? It will execute this display function again and again. So that is what we call it as a idle callback, which call back the display function again and again. Then you just need to use the glut post redisplay, so which will execute the display again and again here. So that is what we have with that. Yeah. Finally, we have a Windows management, so we can create a window using a glut create window. So you have a multiple window to be created. You can write a create window multiple time, then you can set window with a Windows ID, you can pass it, and that window will be appear on your screen. And that is what we have a complete management. That is a long session. We have a multiple functions here in the Windows management. You want this to be learned, you can go with Edward Angel in details. They had been given with the Windows management, and you can discuss on it. Okay, next part I'll come with a menu. So this is what we have in terms of a syllabus here. So we're done till here the input devices. Next part I'll be having a menus and a picking, and that will be a last part with the interactive programs I'll be doing, and then we have a coordination functions. Okay. Okay, so now we have a menus you already know with that. So when you right click on it or left click on it, one pop-up will come, and that is what we call it as a menu. So we can see our graphics, primitives, and our mouse callback and set the various input devices. So you can use a pop-up menus, right? So what is a menus involved? So menus involves three things. This is very important, you need to understand. First, you must define the entries in a menu, then you must link the menu to a particular mouse button, and then you should define the callback function. You should define a callback function for the each menu entry. That is what we have. So I'll be discussing this one here. First one, I have to create a menu with a demo menu. Then what is the first step? You must define a menu entries in a menu. Define entries in a menu. Now, so how many entries we have? We have a three entries, which are this: quit, increase square size, decrease square size. These are the menu entries inside the menu. We have defined it. We are given the quit with a 1, increase with a 2, and this with a 3. And what is the second step? You must link the menu to a particular mouse button. So I have to link the menu, so that can be done by the attach menu. So which button I had linked? To a right button I had linked it. So then you must define the callback function. What is a callback function? So now when you give create menu, you have to give on the callback function. What is a callback function? Demo menu, and that demo menu you have to define it. So that is what say. You must define the callback function corresponding to each menu entry. So now the callback function has been defined. In that each menu entry 1, 2, and 3 should be defined. So when id is equal to 1, id will come and sit here. 1, 2, and 3 will come and sit here. So when id is equal to 1, what happens? When id is equal to 2, what happens? Else what happens? So that should be defined inside the callback function. When you can do this, so then the menu will be created, and that is what we have a menu only with a quit with the three options. Now, so how to how to embed the menu inside another menu? That is what we call it as a hierarchical menu. There's a two option to do it. First, you create the sub menu. So I create a one sub menu, so that is a size menu. So this is a size menu. So inside a size menu, I give a two option: increase a square size and decrease a square size. I give a value as a 2 and 3, and the callback function is on size menu, right? So now, so I put that one inside a sub menu. Then I create another menu. So here also I created a menu. Here also I create a menu. But this created menu is a sub menu. Increase size is a sub menu of the resize. Okay, so I put it inside the sub menu. So I create another menu as a top menu. Inside that first menu entry, I'll be putting the quit with a 1. Second menu entry I'll be give as a resize. For resize, I don't give any value, rather than I give a sub menu. Okay, so now, so you have to give a callback with the top menu as well as a size menu, right? In the top menu, you have to give two options. So we have to give a function call for the size menu and the top menu. In the top menu, you have to do, when you press 1, what should be happen? In the size menu, it should be defined. When you press 2 and 3, what happens? Increase size and decrease size, what happens? That should be defined. Yes. Now I'll come to the last topic of today's session, that is a picking. What do you mean by a picking? Picking is an input operation that allows the user to identify an object on the display. right? What object is there now? Now imagine when you take a Counter-Strike game, you have a particular object to pick it, right, or to select it, and that is what we call it as a picking, right? Although the picking can be done by the pointing devices, the information returned to the application program. So there are two ways to give a picking. One is a selection, another one is a boundary. So the selection is majorly as a one which we are doing in the Photoshop, right? We are adjusting the clipping region. You might be seen, we just drag the clipping region so we can particularly join to your face or something. So that is what we have a selection. So here one clipping region will be given, and then we adjust it to the boundaries. So what and all we have to select it, and that is what we have. So when you have a particular modeling of a face, or you need to do some alteration to your face, then what does a photographer do? He just selects one region, and then he just do the changes whatever he want, and that is what we call it as a selection. And then the multiple points will be generated, and that will be put inside the hit list. Now what is the boundaries or rectangle? So that is nothing but the when you crop a particular photo or something, so you're going to select a particular rectangle or bounding rectangles or extents, right? And that part will be selected, that the other part will be cropped, and that is what we call it as a bounding rectangles, which has been happens in a picking. This is a simplest stuff what they have. So what is picking? So the picking definition, and there are two types of a picking. One is a selection, other one is a bounding rectangle, and this is what we have a complete part with the first part of the fifth module, right? So the other part is the Bezier curves and the animations. So we'll be discussing that one in the next session. Yes, thank you.